Welcome to the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm Simona Nicole, host of the show, mindset coach, and motivational speaker. I've made it my mission to help you get unstuck, shift your mindset, and understand your worth to help you live your most purposeful life. Each week, I will bring you an idea, guest, or a positive thought that will leave you inspired and empowered to win your life. We decide the stories we tell ourselves and where we invest our energy. I'm so grateful you popped in. Now let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm so excited for you to get to meet today's guest. And her name is Michelle Valerio, but she goes by Val, so we're going to call her Val. And it was really interesting. Her and I were just talking before I hit record on this episode. And it turns out that we are connected by somebody. We know someone in this sort of, podcasting world, Joe Fucarino, and he was on the show previously. So I'm sure you may have heard that episode as well. If you haven't, you should go listen to his too. It's pretty great. But today is about Val. And I want to just talk a little bit about Val before we sort of dive into the conversation. So she is a product of a single mother home, and she was living in Paterson, New Jersey. She was raised in a farm in Puerto Rico until she was 6 years old, and then she came to the United States. And in the 7th grade, she had a teacher that heard her voice and told her that she needed to join the Spanish club in the school, which was like a glee club, but just for Spanish songs. And so this is the moment when Val broke out of her stage fright and sort of stepped into this new world of living. And years later, when it was time for her to go to high school, she auditioned and got accepted to Rosa Parks in Paterson. She learned how to properly sing and gained the knowledge she needed to go to college, where she pursued her studies in music therapy. And in college, Val was a part of a couple of different bands and pop and jazz ensembles. And so she decided to bring her passion to life in a really significant way. And so she loves to talk, she loves to sing, and she loves to heal. And by the combination of all three of these different things, she created her podcast called Reflections with Val, where she brings life and music and therapy all together. So I'm really excited, Val, to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh my God, absolutely. This is going to be so fun. Okay, to sort of kick us off, I want to talk a little bit more about the journey that's brought you, to where you are today, and doing exactly what you're doing now with your podcast and your singing and all of that.
Of course. So you want to get to the beginning and why I did it?
Yeah.
I mean, I basically much did it because I was brought up in a minority area, and being closed off in a minority area, you tend to just be ignorant to a lot of things. So I didn't know that there were other people who were brought up in my same situation with a mother, just a single parent in general, that made it far to a point where they graduated with a degree or not. So it was very important for me to kind of also be an example of that in some sort, and trying to be like, no, we outweighed the circumstances, we kind of survived this, and there's a lot of other stories that people need to hear, because a lot of us tend to be closed off in that city or minority mentality, where it's like, if this is our block and this is all we know, this is all we have to know, and no one cares if they fear us or if people don't want to come to our area. It's just not even a thought. It's not even like they wouldn't mind, drug dealing for 20, 30 years, and that to me is mind boggling, because here I have another world or another scope where I kind of opened my eyes to something else, where it's like, no, this is not all it's about. There's people who are also brought up in these circumstances, who've seen these things and chose another route, chose to be successful otherwise and not that way. And I want to kind of be that person to provide listeners for other opportunities, other stories that they may communicate with or relate with. If I could be the source of that, then that is what makes me happy in a sense.
Oh my God, I love that so much. That's so important, because you're bringing this whole new narrative and this whole new way of thinking to people who might not have ever seen it in the same way that you have, you know what I mean? And gotten the same opportunity that you have to see something completely different. And in such a significant way, changing so many people's lives. You know what I mean? in the state at the same time. Like that's incredible. So is this what you do then through your show, like connecting people? And tell me about your show.
So basically with the show, I interview people one-on-one. It's a different guest every time with a different profession. It could be a different profession or a different creative craft on the side. But I like to talk about how the two ties in together, life and that craft. What about that craft that in life brought, joy to you? Or did you write something during that process? That you gone through a trauma or a failure or a mistake, and did you write a song about it if you were a singer?
Yeah.
Did you create a canvas painting if you're an artist? I want to know what is the reason behind these creations or these pieces, and like what made you gear toward that craft to begin with in the first place. I like to also talk about like professional people who don't even have anything to do with music or creativity and just get influenced in certain ways too. Like if they enjoy reading books and they get an escape off that, I like to talk about the escape process of it and why they enjoy it, why they like it, and if it heals anything in the process as well. So like that's what I focus on in each of my interviews as well. I had a magician, I had a producer, I've had a poet. So like I just like to switch it up. I've had like pretty much almost everything. I'm planning on having an HR manager because I like that she knows the difference between generations and how tough it used to be to now like how soft it is now. I like to be viewing different angle points and knowing when and what age did music touch her and who was that artist. Was it Luther Vandross? Was it I like to tie all of that together.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, it's very exciting to hear what their music interests are too in the process. And then we have like a little sing along in the process, and it's like,
this is so fun.
Yeah. It's just beautiful what music can do,
It is.
How it can go back.
It's so true. And like, what song does someone love the most, or where were they in that moment when, that song became a thing and, changed their life and their perspective? That, I've never actually thought about it that way. That is an incredible, you have just changed my mind today. You opened my mind to something completely new that I never would have thought about before.
Thank you.
All right. So we're done here. Thank you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. Just joking. Okay. I want to talk a little bit because I know you love the healing world and being able to provide that to other people. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, what's the most, one of the most important things that you've learned about self-love or like about that healing journey.
Oh man.
Or like 2 or 3, whatever.
The heal journey always continues and never stops, no matter how old you are. That's what I've learned. The moment that you think you have it all together and you think it's okay, it's the moment that everything is not okay. You become more oblivious and more neglectful to yourself, to your emotions. We're in denial sometimes, like, so there's a lot of things that can happen when you're not, sure of who you are or if you don't value yourself. So it's a day-to-day process, but even now I think I've gotten closest to my self-value, and that's because of my first heartbreak and my first trauma, in life, which is losing someone that was close to me that I was, in a relationship with. And when that happened, I woke up and I kind of gained that self-value that I missed in myself, but it could have done either or, But I think it's just reflecting back, I think taking 10 minutes a day to just know what you enjoy, what you like about yourself instead of focusing on the negatives all the time,
I love that. And so, in that moment when you lost that person that was so close to you and so important to you, what do you think was the differentiating factor between, where you went from there versus where you could have gone from there? What's that like one small part? Like, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, what's that one small piece that made you go this way instead of this way?
I think it was my faith because I knew better. I've always grown up in faith and knowing that there is a God. So at the end of the day, I knew better that wasn't a route or an option. So regardless, even if it was something that was interesting or intriguing to me at the time or an interest at the time, I just knew that it just wasn't an option regardless.
Yeah.
So I have an upper hand on that. I've always also had an upper hand because I've also tried to be very self-aware growing up as well. Like I always took 10 to 20 minutes a day to self-reflect, to know what my demons are on a daily basis. because I feel like a lot of people are afraid of facing their flaws, whereas for me, I want to get to know what they are, and I want to know where it started from, and I want to know how it happened. It's like I do like my own self-therapy.
That's incredible. Have you been doing that forever?
Yes.
Wow.
And then I happened to start doing a show about it, because I'm like, because all of my life I've came across so many people. I've worked in so many positions. AT&T as a sales rep. I worked for restaurants. I worked for Applebee's, and they used to always say, like, there are people that would open up parts of themselves, because I would ask questions, like uncover, and before you knew it, they would open up about, I'm in an abusive relationship, and then they would cover their mouths and they're like, oh my God, I don't know why I said that. And I'm like, it's okay.
Because you're like a safe place for people to land. Like people are like comfortable sharing that part about themselves, like with you. And I think that that's like a really like incredible position to be in, to be able to help people through like things that are really, really hard for them, or like being that sounding board that like people can say something to you and like not passing like a judgment on it, but instead like wanting to actually help them.
Exactly. And
that's
I just never
huge.
allowed myself to be that. It never even occurred to me until like it was a natural thing until now. And
really?
Yeah, I just never realized it.
What do you think was like the realization in that? Like, how did that sort of come to be versus how it was before? Was there like a wake up sort of moment, or?
When I started singing in churches is when I realized my ability. Because I was telling someone that there's a difference between performing as a singer, and then there's a difference between worshiping as a singer. When you're performing, you're trying to put up the show. You have this pressure to put up a show to your audience, So it's very serious and it's very different. You have a whole catalog, you had months to practice, you've had weeks to practice sometimes, But as a worship, you have to set yourself in a very vulnerable place within your mind where nothing is distracting you, and you're like now just being like used in a sense. So like you have to relate the words that you're singing. You're not just singing. You have to like know what you're singing. You have to feel what you're singing. Just why, verses from gospel to R&B. You can already tell the difference. Gospel has these people that just feel what they're singing.
Yeah.
And then you have some R&Bs that just do, they do some fancy smancy stuff, but feel it the way you would feel it in a gospel track for some reason. So like, that's just, I feel like that was when I realized, okay, like I would see the audience and see how they would receive what I would say. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, okay.
Oh my God. And you can like, you're watching them right there, shift like in that moment.
From being this way, not being moved. Some of them are like, whatever, not paying attention to everyone is just like just able to just cry out or receive or not. And some people are just looking, but not on their phones, not anywhere else. That is what you do it for. It's for those reactions specifically. And that's why I question to singers now, are you doing it for the trend or because it's looking nice and it's a hit to be a singer, or are you doing it for the purpose behind your reason? Like, what is your specific reason? Everybody has to have one. We can't just go for it just to go for it. Because if that was the case, then music would have no meaning, Oh
my God, that's so good. So then is that like your reason is to watch, like seeing people's shifts?
My reason is to try to see if I can heal someone, some way, somehow, whether through music, whether through talking, whether through words. Is just, that's like what it is. Like, that's why I've held back for so long to write my originals, I feel, because I'm going to have a lot of experiences on each of my songs.
Yeah.
But I'm going to hope for that. I'm going to hope for her. I'm going to hope for Adele kind of thing. Because, when Adele gets behind, any album, you're expecting some kind of heartfelt, oh my goodness, I'm ready to get my tissue box kind of thing.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay, so we heard Val here first, everybody, just saying. Let's not forget. No, I'm kidding. That is so amazing. So have you put out like a lot of your own stuff yet? Or what is that process like? Where are you at in terms of like your music career right now?
My music career right now is starting. Actually, I did a cover. I've been a cover artist now for years, but now I'm trying to do my own originals. So I've been branching into that world. I've been on some features. I actually have like a video shoot coming soon. I was supposed to have a video out by now, but the whole pandemic situation happened.
Small detail. Just kidding. Very big detail. Very big detail.
Very big detail.
Very big detail.
But so that delayed the process. So it's still on pending until due time. But I'm planning on coming out with an EP by the end of this year. So there's a lot of things that I'm creating right now in the process, but I'm also doing my podcast at the same time, as well as like also doing some photo shoots and some studio time. So there's just like a lot of stuff going on in the schedule, but everything is coming together. But
I love that.
Guys, it's just, I'm so excited. Like I have a cover video coming up soon. I have with Zane, hopefully, I have a couple of photo shoots coming up too that are going to surprise my audience.
Oh my God, so exciting.
Other side of me that I'm not comfortable with. So
oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. He's awesome, by the way, because when I did the interview with like Therapy Without a Degree podcast on their show, we recorded it the first time, and it was Joe, Zane, and Nat, and we were all just talking, but the sound never recorded, like the audio never recorded for some reason. So it was just like video. Yeah. And so we had to redo it. And then what ended up happening was, I think it was like Zane was the only one who was like available on the date and time. And anyway, so it was just him and I talking for like an hour, and it was awesome. And he's just, it was incredible. Like, and I think just that whole like group of people, I mean, I don't know, they're just, they're amazing. You know what I mean? And it's funny how you sort of get connected to someone, and then how that connection grows into something different. And then how, you end up meeting somebody else, and then, you already know them, and then you come onto this show. Like, it's always, it never ceases to.
How we all just keep on coming together. I love it too. Yeah. It's a great vibe. And yes, that group, they are all about uplifting and spreading love and support everywhere else. I get that vibe.
Good. It's so good. And, I want to go back really quick to what you were saying before about all the things that you're working on that are coming up. I love a lot that you, I don't know why this sticks out to me so much, that you said you're going to have an EP out at the end of the year. Because I think that a lot of the times people forget how much hard work goes into something behind the scenes, and that like people maybe sometimes are like, okay, well, I want to, like, I'm in the coaching space, for example. So you'll have a coach that'll say, I want to, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Like, I want to make, $5,000. I want to bring on 3 clients, and like, it's my first month of business, let's say. And it's like, yeah, okay, but it takes time to build up all of those things. You know what I mean? It's not as simple as just starting and seeing all of the massive success like right away. I think a lot of the time people compare themselves to others because 100%. They think, right? Because they think that like it's gonna, just be a couple months and then that's it, and then they're gonna hit massive success. But did you see the last 15 years of all the growth that they had to do before they got there? It's so important.
Right, that's it. That goes out the window when you see the success, and they're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. But then it's like, I like that you said like by the end of the year, because the amount of work that it's going to take, and what has to go on behind the scenes, right? Like,
oh my goodness, you have no idea.
Oh.
As a performer, I tell everyone, and everyone knows this too in the industry right now, and we're in the underground scene, they're like, Val is a performer. She's not a studio artist. Like, I just don't like being in the studio. The same verse for the first one for over and over again until it gets perfected. And it's like, oh, I don't want to do that. I like just one and doneing it. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Oh, that's amazing. Where are you like perform? Well, I guess not right now because we're in this coronavirus right now, but by the time this airs, I'm kind of hoping that we won't be, because it'll be in June. So, I mean, we shall see. But what are some of like the places that you perform? Like, what are the types of shows that you're doing right now? And, what is that all like, Oh
my goodness, it's amazing. As a performer, as a singer, that's helped me a lot, because a lot of studio artists, they don't understand their audiences and how they react. So to them, they're always critiquing themselves and thinking, oh my God, there's something bad with me. And it's like, no, every audience is going to take your gift in your craft in a different way, and they're going to react to it in a different way. It really just depends on the setting and the song selection you do. You're not going to go to a baby shower and sing pump it up. Like it's gonna look a little crazy, you know what I mean? You want to go to a baby shower and you want to sing like something that's geared towards babies, you know?
Could you imagine? Oh my God, that would be so funny.
mean, you'd be surprised, but I performed that
for fun. If I ever have a baby one day, or I should say when one day, can you come to my baby shower and sing that song? No, yeah.
That'll be the joke of the century.
Yeah, literally.
Go back on a recap on the episode, you'll understand why. No one will judge us. They'll be like, okay, it was beautiful.
Oh my God, we could put a timestamp right there too. If anyone wants any reference, it was in 2020.
Oh my God, are you engaged?
Yeah.
Oh,
I am. I have rings on both fingers, but yeah. Yeah. Thanks. I've been engaged for August will be 2 years. We've been together for 6, and we were supposed to get married this year, but we had to push back our wedding because of the coronavirus. So it'll be 2021. Yeah. But we're really excited.
Congratulations.
I know. Thank you. Thanks. I know, but he's also pretty great. So, no, it's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, I know, it's like different, but going back to performing, I don't even know. I guess I performed at weddings too. It's funny.
Oh.
I've done weddings. I've done at last. Speaking of, like stuff like that, ballads, you know, stuff, things of that nature. I had a band. I did Bruno Mars medley. I did like a whole thing.
Cool.
I've done councilman meetings. I've done the city of Paterson. They literally had me everywhere for like every single meeting for mayor or councilman. So
that's such a cool thing to do. How did you get into that?
My high school, because I went to a performing arts high school. So like we had connections with NJPAC, we had connections with like the city and stuff like that. So if they needed like a Star Spangled Banner singer, someone of that nature, then it was the principal's job to pick. And like at the time I had a reputation at the school, so she just chose me, and she was like, okay, I'm gonna choose, you know, Michelle. And then I just happened to be that person. But I've done funerals too. And funerals are a little challenging because it's easy for you to sink into that emotion as well, very easily, because you're singing words that relate to that loss. So it's very easy for you to also be in that emotion. And so you have to like kind of fight with yourself, or so maybe not. There's some people who just instantly just jade themselves and just, you know, do it. But I have to be in the emotion. I fight with myself.
Oh my God, that would be so hard. You know what I mean? Especially being able to like, the thing, you know, I don't know really how to word this. I mean, okay, if you're someone that can feel other people's like emotions, and you're someone who can help to heal other people, a lot of the time you feel that emotion back to you. You know what I mean? And so when you're in those like really hard situations, it's like, it's hard to not get all in the emotion too. So that is a big deal to be able to like sort of turn that portion off, so that, you know, you're not overcome by all of that.
Yeah, but even then it's like, it took me a while to get to comfortability to perform, because my first performance, I was, you know, when you're a singer, you want to keep your box and your gift to yourself. You want to keep it caged. Don't show anyone else. This is mine. Yeah. So that's your first instinct. And then when someone reveals it, you're like, what? No, I don't have this. And it's like, yeah, you do. So that's the same thing when it came down to like my first times on stage. I had the shakes. I didn't want to do it, and I ended up doing it. Wow. But if I had not done it then, I don't know how much longer it would have taken me to come out. I think I probably would have came out somewhere in high school, but I would have not gone to Rosa Parks. I would have gone to like Eastside High School, which was not a good reputation at the time. So,
oh my God, your life could have been completely different.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's crazy. When you decided to audition for Rosa Parks and go there, what was that process like for you? You know what I mean? Because that's like a pretty pivotal moment, I think, in your like life and in your journey and your stories. Like, what did that look like?
I feel like that was like a sent from God, really, because I didn't even know about a performing arts high school. I thought there was only 2 options. It was either apply to Tech or apply to Eastside High School, and like I applied to both, but I applied to Tech for the drama department because it didn't have a vocal department then. So I applied to that, and then my mom and other students were talking about Rosa Parks. You should do Rosa Parks because like I feel like that's a better fit for you. And I'm like, where is it? And I almost just missed the deadline for the application, but I
Oh,
still
wow.
submitted it anyways. Yeah, it was like a whole thing. And even my mom says like it was like a whole thing to like even they didn't even have my application in the records when she went to pick up my audition stuff. It was like crazy. It was like pulling teeth. But when I went to the audition required you to have 3 song selections. Every single major had a different requirement.
Mm-hmm.
If you were an art major, you had to bring a portfolio. If you were a dance major, you had to be ready to dance. And for singing, it was being ready to sing 3 songs, 2 of their selections, and then 1 of yours.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
I want to quickly pause this interview and tell you about the Handel Group coaches that I've had the honor and privilege of bringing onto the Happiness Happens podcast. With every conversation and interview, I've learned something so impactful and so life-changing. Inner You Life is the online coaching course from Handel Group that gives you the tools to get yourself unstuck, wildly happy, and thriving where it matters most to you. Your relationship to yourself, career, love, body, money, time, and more. From wherever, whenever. Recommended by Hugh Jackman, Dr. Mark Hyman, Forrest Whitaker, Elena Brower, and hundreds more. Taught in MIT, Stanford School of Business, and 50 plus institutes of learning across the world. Visit inneryou.coach and use the code HappinessHappens at checkout for $75 off. Now, back to the episode.
Did they tell you what it is in advance?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the 2 selections were Children of the Future with Whitney Houston, and then
Oh,
the
wow.
Banner, which everyone should know if you're a singer. Just saying.
So like that's like the entry one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like if you're a singer, if you claim you're a singer, you don't know the Star Spangled Banner, honey. I don't know.
Rethink that career.
That career, honey, because like, that is saying like you don't know the Somewhere Over the Rainbow song from The Wizard of Oz, you know.
True.
It's just one of those first songs that they introduce to you. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like we're in a singing career where you're starting. It's just really hard to come out in the first like couple years. That's what I feel like. And then once you master that, you're good. And once you get a comfortability into what your voice is and not what you're trying to sound like, start getting more familiar with how you sound within yourself, and you can sound beautiful instead of you trying to imitate Beyonce, then you'll be like, good. You'll be great.
That is such a really good point. And I feel like that translates into so many different like areas, because I'm not familiar with, like the music industry and like what it takes behind the scenes. Like, yes, I listen to music, of course, but this is the first conversation I've ever had with an artist. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So I know. And so, what was I going to say? Oh, okay. So you hear a lot, like you just said, like finding your own voice and like your own tone and your own way of doing it. That translates into so many different things. It's interesting because I think in so many different niches, so many different industries, so many different jobs, so many different career paths, whatever, that's the key, is always like remembering like who you are and like what you do and what the magic of you is and like what that part of you is that you bring to everybody else.
Yes.
But having to get in tune with that, like, that's incredible. I didn't know that would ever have been, but of course you would have like that comparison syndrome, and you would start to compare yourself to all the other musicians and artists out there, right? Like, does my voice sound good enough?
That's what seems to favor you guys, the audience. And that's what every up and coming artist is trying to capture, is the audience. How can we capture them? How are we going to keep them engaged? This is what they're bumping to, Rihanna, and this is what's on the radio. So, if you start listening to your favorite artist for a long time, then you start coming in the way of yourself in your creation process, because you'll start writing and you'll be like, oh my God, I sound like, this person. So apparently, like, it's also something that they also try to distance themselves from if they're creating an album. It's something that I've heard more and more when I do interview these artists and everything of that nature. They try to strip away from people that they favor or like a lot, because they don't want to start imitating them. They want to stay true to who they are. It's very important for each of them to do that, because that's where their story is, That's what makes them different and sets them apart. not every rapper is a lyricist, and I want to know
True.
why. I feel
That's
like
a really good point.
Yeah.
Do a lot of artists talk about the why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They talk about their whys. Some of them don't. Some of them don't like to bring up their first song that they ever created because it was apparently horrible or embarrassing at the time. But some of them are willing to do so. You know, that's, I think, like their first thing. A lot of them tell me their first time that they wrote a song and what made them write it. Things of that nature. That's what I like to like get undercover, like all that, uncover all that.
Oh man, that's really, really cool. That's really deep too. Oh man. Okay, you're gonna have to come back on the show after you release your EP, and then we can talk about all the why behind all of the things.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just kidding, we don't have to, but like I kind of want to.
To be honest, I'm gonna be ready. I have to be ready. It's gonna
exactly.
Be the big why.
And if you're writing all of these songs, they're all gonna relate to your story and who you are. And so that's kind of the thing too, right? It's like you're sharing so much of you with other people. And I think that like, I don't know, as like, okay, I'll take myself, for example, as like the audience, like, so you hear songs sometimes and you don't actually know if it's that person who experienced, like did the artist write the lyrics themselves? You know what I mean? Is that their story? Is that something they experienced? Or, you know, a lot of the time it could just be something that right? And so it's cool, I think, to know that there's still people there that write their own music.
Yes. And even then, like if you sing something that a songwriter sang, just live it like you lived it yourself, I feel. And if you did that, you did the job. You done the song some justice. Because I think there's a lot of songs that Drake has done that other people have written. And like, you wouldn't know because he sings very well and he relays the emotion very well on it. So
that's so true. It's in some kind of sense, I don't want to compare it like to I don't want to compare it to acting because it's very different, but when you're an actor, it might not be your story, but you're still embodying the character that would play that story.
Yes, that's so true.
Right? And so you're kind of like always, I think that like, that is not an easy thing to do. You know what I mean? But I think that, I don't know. Yeah.
It isn't. It's something that can take emotion out of you, even writing a song, because sometimes a certain artist, not all, they have to go back to that place to revisit those emotions, to be able to write down that experience and get that song captured. Because it's really hard to stay on one subject when you start writing music and venture into so many subjects. So what can help you focus on that subject is if you focus on the emotions behind that one subject. Write it all down and try to make a song about it. So if you want to focus on heartbreak, we'll go back to that first heartbreak or the heartbreak that you can remember right now that's still fresh.
Oh man, that's crazy. I never would have thought, like I would have just thought when you're writing a song, like you would just write what is related to that. But of course, it's kind of like you're writing in a journal, for example. You're still writing and you're like, no, we're going to shift into this thing over here. And then it all kind of evolves because one emotion sparks another emotion, you know, triggers this memory.
I mean, that's what I think, you know, people who write songs like Love in the Brain do. You know, even we can go as far as At Last, you know, she was happy that she found someone she was in love with. You know,
yeah.
You know, like there's an emotion that's in every single song. It's beautiful. And it's like a reminder. Some of them bring memories to you that you don't even think about. Like there's this album that brings memories to me. Like when I used to live in 73rd Gray Street in Paterson. Like I literally picture the apartment. I picture it all. I picture me with the CD because it was the CD then. And it takes me back to that place because my mom had the CD. And the band is called Anointed. And my sister and my brother can tell you that as well. But like, that album literally, you played one song from that right now. It takes me to that moment where I was in the apartment listening to it.
Wow.
And that's what music therapy does. It's essential. They work with people who have Alzheimer's, dementia, who have memory lost, or hospice centers. But that is what it does. It helps those people who have dementia and Alzheimer's gather and help them gather their memories again. Because that's what music does sometimes. So when you play songs of their time and their era and what was popular then, they remember and they start picking up themselves and their pieces. They remember their age. They remember who they are. They remember where they used to live.
That's incredible. I never heard of that before.
Yeah. It's a new profession. It's like I said, now it's something that's going to be in hospitals, hospice centers. It's been in adult and special needs children, workers with needs.
Wow. That's crazy. But of course that would make so much sense. Like you take them back to that place.
Yeah. And then with autism and any of those other disabilities, it just helps them kind of stay focused, because a music therapist is supposed to have an instrument and they're supposed to help the other or the client or the patient also play something while we're singing and talking about their day, you know?
That's so cool. Have you, obviously you know a lot about this, but like, is this something that you do by chance?
Yeah, it's something that I technically do now, but without like the certification or the degree.
Fair enough.
That's what essentially like I try to do now in my platform. I wanted to create something that brings life, music, and all of that together and heal it and bring it all together.
Oh,
Even
I love that.
their self-healing process. Because what I gain out of this eventually is to be a motivational speaker, you know, after my life is well lived and I've experienced and I've captured most of my mistakes and failures. I don't want to be, you know, two-faced out here, but it's important to me for me to get to that goal. My end goal is to be a motivational speaker. I want to be a vocal therapist or a vocal instructor of some sort. You know, I want to sing by night. I want to speak in jail systems or assemblies on the side, and that's my motivational speaking side. You know, like I want to do a lot. I want to do talk show radio host. I want to do voiceover.
Oh my God.
Like, whatever comes my way at this point, but it's been nothing but blessings because I only expected a podcast out of this, you know? I only did that, and then out of the podcast, I got so many other opportunities pouring out and all different angles, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do with all this. Like,
it's like all of the things. Like, I will take one of each. Thanks.
One of each, but like, I just need some time. Like,
I know. And then it's like you have all these other opportunities and all these other things going on at the same time. And all these other things that you know, dreams that you have, and all these things you want to work on. And so, okay, if you think about all of these big goals that you have for yourself and all these things that you want to do, you know, a lot of the time people will take a look at their goals list and get like overwhelmed of all of these goals that they have and all these things they want to do. They don't know how they're going to get there, how they're going to make it. But what's something that always drives you?
Oh, that's a good question. What drives me is trying to be successful because I want to be. That's the only thing that drives me. Because I want to have a good future and a good foundation for my family. I don't want my future children to experience what I had to go through, which is being independent at a young age, with me not wanting to, but I had to. Learning how to adult very quickly, you know?
Yeah.
I want them to gain that independence and know how it is while I'm there with them. And I want them to be sheltered until they're like off and ready, graduated college or something of that nature. I don't want, you know, like I just feel like I want that for them. And the only way that I'm going to get that is if I work now and make sure that I'm doing something now. So I'm just constantly on myself and telling myself, like, listen, like, you got to keep going because I want to be successful. I don't want to work paycheck to paycheck. I don't want to do a lot of these things anymore. And I want to be happy. That's another thing. Whatever anyone does, I feel like as long as you're happy, it shouldn't matter what you do or what profession you go for. As if you love landscaping, start your landscaping business. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You know, like everyone has their own happiness. So just go with it.
Exactly. It's interesting that you say that right now because I was listening to, you know, Gary Vee?
Yes, I do.
So he's doing this new thing. It's called Tea with Gary Vee or quarantine, something like that. It's to do with the quarantine. So this whole time during quarantine, I think he goes live like every single morning and he answers a ton of questions from people that are in his community and so on and so on. But then he also took those episodes and he put them on his podcast. So I was listening to it on his podcast and someone had come on and was like, you know, I just want to be like a basketball coach. And he was like, okay, so go ahead. Like, why not? And then the guy, like the kid who was asking the question was like, yeah, but like, you know, I had this teacher, and then Gary stops him and he goes, okay, nothing good has ever followed, like, but I had this teacher who said, you know what I mean? Anyways, he's like, okay, but continue, you know, continue on with your question. And so he did. And he's like, well, I had this teacher, and like, I told her that I wanted to be a basketball coach. And she said like, something like, oh, you're never going to make any money in that, blah, blah, blah. And then Gary said something, it was like so insightful. I was like, okay, so smart. He said, you know, imagine that person, like that teacher, actually cared about you. If they cared about you and your actual happiness, they would never put the money behind it. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, you shouldn't do that because you're never going to have like the money out of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Essentially, do you know what I'm saying? So like,
yeah.
So yeah, exactly.
But it doesn't make a lot of money, but nothing good ever comes after a but.
Exactly. And then he was also saying like, okay, so imagine you have all these people who are all, you know, if your passion is serving or bartending at a restaurant, like I'll tell you about, like, that was my favorite job that I've ever had, was being a server and a bartender. It's so fun, like getting to meet people all the time. Okay, yes, there's pros and cons to everything, but like for me, that was like so fun, just the social aspect. So Gary is saying like, okay, why can't more people have the job that pays you $24K a year, $30K a year, $32K a year, and then you have the freedom and the happiness and the drive to do all of your different side things and all the other things that you want to do. You know what I mean? Right. Instead of having that big ambition that I need to make 100K in my corporate career and like grind every single day. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just thought it was like such a cool perspective.
No, I think that's a spot on perspective.
Right? I loved it so much. Imagine we lived in a society that was like, yes, everybody go and do whatever you want to do and actually enjoy your life. Like, you know, I think that more people should be able to do that and actually believe that they can.
It'd be more forth-putting instead of believing the doubts and the fears. As an entrepreneur, you have to know that every decision you make, you're not going to know what the end result is. You may have a couple possibilities or probabilities, but if you make the mistake, you make it. You know, at the end of the day, you had an expectation to make either one or two mistakes out of that decision or not. So just learn from it while you're in the mistake, while you're trying to, you know, like, and that's what a lot of entrepreneurs say. You know, as the moment you stop and you save all your money, the moment the currency stops going, that's when the money stops.
That's so good.
Currency, it has to keep going.
You gotta spend to invest and to receive back.
Exactly. You have to invest. And he said there's moments where I had to invest and I had to basically sacrifice with negative $1,200 in my account and know that wasn't going to come back to me. You're going to have to make decisions of that nature as an entrepreneur. And then you're going to have to make a decision the next day where you're going to have to gain 20,000 back. And if it's a good decision or not, you know, it's like, there's a lot of things. So it's like, you have to have a good headspace. You have to be strong-minded. And you can't beat yourself up, because of that will hinder you. That will hold you back like another 3 steps behind.
Yeah.
You go forward. You're not trying to go backwards, right?
Your perspective is really refreshing. Like your mindset is really refreshing. And, you know, I'm curious, and like, there might not be an answer to this question, but like, how do you keep it that way? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you not get stuck in the small things, and like, how do you continue on to persevering? Is it like that bigger why of like what you really want for yourself that drives you every? Yeah.
It's the bigger why. And also because I see the end result. You have to see it. You have to know what you're going after. You can't just go after just because it looks pretty, just because the image, just because it sounds good. Like, are you going after it because you're hungry for it? Because you absolutely see it and there's nothing that's driving you away from it? Is it like tunnel vision on it? And that's what it is. It's like, there is a tunnel vision on it for me. And when I am like focused on it, that's like it. And another thing is like, I think it's also I think it has a lot to do with my faith too.
Yeah.
Because when I was 12 years old, I was told that I was going to do all this. And I looked at her and I said, I don't even sing. You got the wrong one. Okay. And she had the right one. She said I was going to do a lot of these things that I'm doing now, but I didn't know that I was going to do these things. I didn't believe in myself. And even now, you know, like, there's a lot of people that hit me up on my messenger, on direct message, and say, you know, your show is so relatable, and I want you to know it's helped me out on this situation in life. And it's for those listeners that I do this for. It's not for myself. And if a lot of people listen to my shows, they'll know that it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the person that I'm talking about, or the person who's there. and it has everything to do about the listener, your life, struggles, and trying to uplift and help others. It's not to bash, it's not to talk down on anyone, it's not to do any of that. It's to just, let's come together, let's hold hands, and let's try to get through this together kind of thing. You know?
That's so good. I love that, because I really think that it's like a place that comes from your heart. You know what I mean? It's not like an ego thing. You know what I mean? You do it out of like the genuine desire to help and show people all the love that
I share for music. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want everyone to just hop on the music love train, you know?
That's incredible. That is so incredible. Okay, so I have like a couple more questions for you, but one of them, and we've spoken a lot about music, of course, but I want to know what you love the most about music.
What I love most about music is how much it can speak when where words fail.
Mm.
So if I fail, because I've had experience this recently, I failed to feel something or back my emotions behind a feeling, and I kept it bottled in for 2 weeks, and I acted like it didn't affect me. And then I heard a song that described everything on that scenario, and I just started. So there's things of that nature that I like, and that moment right there, I love how it can bring people together, families together, even friends. If you're out in a road trip and you play a song, everyone's like, yeah, you know, and I just love the power that it can do. So yeah.
I love that. That's so good. That's so good. Okay, this is my last question for you. And it's a question that I ask all of my guests when they come on the show. And it's, you know, what's one way that someone could start to create a little bit more happiness in their life every day starting today?
Starting today, I would say be self-aware. How can you be self-aware? Being self-aware would put 10 minutes, 5 minutes a day, or even if it's like 5 to 10 minutes a week, to try to write down what made you mad, what flustered you, what didn't. Are you happy of what you're doing in your life right now currently? Are you not? And then ask yourself why. Just, it's like that time with yourself. So like I think that doing that on a weekly or daily basis, that will guarantee some kind of happiness. Or daily affirmations, things that maybe looking in the mirror and saying things that you don't believe in yourself, but say it and mean it and believe it. Like, if you don't believe that you're beautiful, go in the mirror, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm beautiful.
That is such a hard thing to do.
It's so hard.
It's so hard. It is. It's so hard, but it's so powerful when you can do it. But it's so hard. Okay, there was this one time I did this, I was at this retreat, and one of the things that they had us doing, it was like a yoga meditation retreat, and one of the things that they had us doing was sitting down in front of somebody else, and you like look at them, okay? And I've never been to a retreat before, like never done anything like that. And right? Oh my God, it was amazing. It was amazing. And I had never, this is a couple of years ago now. And so I'm sitting in front of this girl and we're looking at each other, like, you know, directly in the eyes. And you have to sit there for like 10 minutes. And at first I was like laughing like crazy. I was like, this was so awkward, like whatever. And then finally at the end of it, like it's some kind of magical. I was just like, what is happening? Like, it was crazy, but it goes along the lines of like what you're saying of like looking at yourself and like telling yourself something and like finding the good thing and like pointing it out to yourself and like having to say it.
It's really hard. It's even hard to find a good thing, right? And it's like you figure it shouldn't be, but it is. But it helps you also force the good things that you don't see yourself. So it's like, it's a good thing.
Oh my God, I love that so much. That's such a good tip. That like both of those together, those are so good. Those are life-changing ones, I think.
Yeah, that's what changed and helped me in my life. So I just literally advise everyone to do that. Like that's why I think I feel like I'm that refreshing in my head.
I love that.
Because I'm gotta do that on a daily basis.
Yeah, but actually, oh my God, that's so good. I think I'm gonna try this. I get like weird like things around that though. Sometimes I'm just like, oh yeah, like I don't know if I could, but I think I'm going to.
You got this. Like, girl, stop. You got your fiance in the side. What's his name?
Steve.
Yay!
Oh, I love it. Oh my God, it's so funny because it's like, okay, so I'm sitting at my desk, like right now where my computer is, and he's like, we have like a 2-person desk, so he's actually sitting right beside me right now. Every time I do these interviews, he's always beside me. It's awesome. But he can't hear because I have headphones on, but I have to play it back for him.
Yes, play it back for him.
I will. I definitely will. Oh my God, it's so good. Okay, Val, where can our listeners find you? Because I know they're going to want to learn more.
Yes, you guys, you can find me in SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, and Apple. And then also you can follow me at Reflections with Val on Instagram, or you could also follow me at soulfully_Val on Instagram.
Amazing. I'm going to put all of those links in the show notes so people can connect with you really easily.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh my God, of course, absolutely.
This was so much fun.
I know, this was so much fun. You are so amazing. Like this is just so much fun. I'm so glad that our listeners got to hear all of this.
No, thank you. I love how positive your show is, and that's why I came on. Like, it's so refreshing as well.
Thank you.
You're doing something beautiful and impactful. And even the post that you did earlier, like that right there was just beautiful. Like you went on a walk. You felt like that was very self-aware. That was like example of self-awareness 101 right there.
Thank you.
You were on your phone, a lot, and you were like, you know what, today I'm not going to be on my phone. I'm going to definitely, be productive, do something, and you did. So, like, that's...
Thank you. Oh, my God, you make my day. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, I'm just going to close out the show with that because that was so beautiful. So, thank you so much, Val, for being on the show. This was awesome. And thank you for sharing all of your incredible love and wisdom and light with everybody. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into this week's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. I hope you loved every single minute of it. I hope you go back and restart from the beginning and grab all of those beautiful things that Val said and actually implement them in your life. You guys, she's something special. So you have to go back to the beginning and you have to re-listen to this again. And you also should probably let us know what you think of the episode and what resonates the most for you. So wishing you a beautiful week. And remember that until then, happiness happens when you're least expecting it.
Thanks so much for being here today. I hope these words have brought you inspiration, insight, and a bit more happiness. Please leave a comment or a review if this episode resonates with you. I would be so grateful. Until next time, remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.